Greetings and welcome to Samurai Arts in Rotorua, New Zealand. My name is Dave Butler. This is my assistant, Lenny. Rick. Rick. So where are all the students? There's nobody here. The dojo is empty. Well, if you're anything like in New Zealand, the COVID-19 virus is around. It's not rampant in New Zealand, but around the world there are areas where it's rife. So New Zealand is in a lockdown situation and everybody has to stay in what we call a bubble. So we're not allowed to mix with each other. Luckily Lenny is in my bubble, so I have someone to train with. But the students are not allowed to train in the dojo, and that's probably going to persist for another week or two. What we're going to do today is look at some Jujutsu. Now, we're not going to do technique as such. What I want to focus on are the principles of Jujutsu. In Japanese martial arts, it seems to be that you practice as many techniques as possible, and when you know a lot of techniques, you should understand the principles. The Chinese martial arts are a little different. They believe you learn the principle, and once you understand the principle, you can make up as many techniques as you want based on that principle. So what we're going to do today is look at some techniques, not to study the technique, but to look at the underlying principle. And once you understand the principle, you can apply that in lots and lots of ways, and it might help your Jujutsu. So this is very, very basic. There's no flash techniques, no fancy techniques. And we understand that you might be in your living room, you might be training at home. There's a TV set, a coffee table, a lounge suite. There is no room to do throws. You don't have mats on the floor. So you have to restrict your training. So we're not going to do a lot of ukemi, break falls, that sort of thing. We're just going to look at very simple movements that might help you and something for you to think about. Our system at Samurai Arts is semi-traditional Jujutsu. That means we have a Kamae. Now our Kamae is 1 foot forward and extend. It's very similar to holding a sword. But of course there is no sword. We have our hips lowered and our knees slightly bent. The reason we're in this position, which is often called iagoshi, is because you can move. I can straighten, I can move my body, I can step. My weight is slightly forward, and that allows me to move. If my legs were straight, it's more difficult to move. If my weight is back, it's more difficult to move. If I'm here, I can go this way very quickly. I can change direction. Here, here, here. So we use a Kamae. But in the street or in competition, you probably won't use a Kamae. You might have your own Kamae. But we use it here because this shows your brain is switched on. You can attack me because I am ready. It shows you are ready to train. So we've talked about Kamae. So we move into Kamae. We can help practice our movement from here. We can move 4 directions. So the first one is just 180 degrees. We step, we turn. We step, we turn. We step, we turn. We step, we turn. We can increase this now to 4 directions. So again we do 180, then 90, 180, 90, 180, 90, 180, and we stop at 90. What this exercise does, it helps keep us in a low stance and adds fluidity to our movement. So we can move somewhere and we'll be on balance, ready to go. Okay? If you're a karate person, this is a bit like a Zenkutsu position, you can kick. Okay? If you're a boxer, you can box, right? You're on balance. The last thing we want is for somebody to punch us, and I'm off balance. So again, we punch, boom. and I can do a technique. You punch the side, here, whoop, I can do a technique. So I can move and retain my balance. It's very important in martial arts. We'll talk about balance more shortly. So having discussed Kamae, we now look at some exercises. Again, I prefer exercises that are a little bit traditional and that involve a partner, because it's like training. You're doing the exercise, you're almost doing a technique. So we'll do an exercise that involves Kamae. Ready? This one, I'm facing in this direction. I decide to strike the person behind me, for whatever reason, block. Then I do Taisabaki to an arm lock. Again, goes up. Here. And I have an arm lock. So what we're doing is a fluid movement. We're practicing our footwork, we're doing an exercise, and we're entering into a technique. To do it slowly, I'm striking to the head, but there's a block. But I still use the movement to put my partner in a disadvantaged position. On the other side. Here. Down. Of course, you can see from here what I can do. I can kick the head, I can kick the ribs, okay? I can smash the arm, I can do any number of techniques, and we're going to move into one of those techniques. So, taking it to the next step, I do the exercise here, I do the technique to here, but I don't want to stop there. So I slide here, taking the hand. Then, again, looking at my Taisabaki, I do a wrist block, and you can, techniques just present themselves. Up again. Again, striking, moving smoothly. Then here, Taisabaki again, here. And I have a wrist lock position, possible arm lock position. Up again. Other side, left. Strike, Taisabaki, Taisabaki, and I've practiced two techniques while doing an exercise. Another simple exercise doesn't involve a technique, but it does involve practicing Kamae. So I stand, and each time I count to 4. So I step to the right, and here, then back, and here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Ich, ni, sam, shi. Ich, ni, sam, shi. Okay? Ich, ni, sam, shi. 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 Now, what does that do? Well, there's lots of exercises you see people doing to twist their spine and what have you, and that's great. But this does all of that. Plus, you get gosh. You get good hip movement, you get a Kamae position, back, and then you go to the right, here, and back. So you're doing the exercise, but you've also got a martial arts philosophy with that exercise. Reiho is an important part of Japanese martial arts. Reiho means etiquette, okay? And it's the courtesy that you show to others and the respect you show to the martial arts. And it's important that we maintain these things. Sometimes in some dojos it flies a little bit out the window, but it's important to keep a high level of respect and courtesy. So the correct way to bow is to face each other. Now before we do this, you'll notice there's almost 3 mat lengths between us. That's about 3 meters. 2 meters is adequate. But sometimes I see people bowing here. They go to train, so you bow, right? Bang, just about hit their head together. That's too close. And distance is your friend. All right? I see videos of police arresting people, stopping cars and arresting people, and they come up to the criminal or the suspect and they're this close. Now, that's far too close. Lenny can move and put a knife in my ribs before I can react. Your normal reaction time is somewhere between about half to 3/4 of a second. You don't have time to get out of the way. If I am here, there's no way Lenny can get to me within 1 or 2 seconds. I'll be a long way away. So this is safety. It's like insurance. Distance is your insurance. Now, if we bow from a standing position, ready? Kamae. Moving to Seiza. So in Seiza, your knees should be a couple of hand widths apart. Your hands rest on your thighs. You should have a straight back. Don't want to see people in a dojo like this. Straight back. Then when you bow, your left hand goes first. Then your right hand. Then you bow and you leave your backside down. Then right hand back, left hand back. All too often you'll see people lift their backside. That's not really polite. So again, when we say right, it's left, right. The reason the left hand goes first, traditionally in Japan, the samurai would have small weapons. I don't know this person. Can I trust this person? So my left hand goes first, so that my right hand is still free to take a weapon if I need to. Okay? Then I see the other person is doing the same thing, left hand down, so I think, oh, this is okay. So I now commit to the bow, back. But again, the hand comes back. Then when we rise, right leg first. The reason I have my wakizashi, my small sword here, I can use it if my right leg is in that position. So the samurai was always thinking about safety and battle. Then up to this position and 1 step back to your original position. One more time. So we go Kamae. Down to Seiza. Ready? And we're ready to train. Now I want to talk a little bit about balance. You know, even if you have a very strong opponent, if that person has no balance, then you're in a good position. So the idea is to remove the balance from him. When you remove the balance, you take away a lot of their strength. Let's look at the principle of balance. So Lenny, if you just go into a Kamae, 1 foot ahead. Here you see 2 feet, stay still. There is a line between 2 feet. That is the limit of the balance of Lenny. Now, if I take her and I push this way, she is strong because I'm pushing along her line of balance. Okay? Don't move. On the other hand, if I do this, she is not strong because the balance is only in one direction. And if you've only got 2 legs, it's very difficult to get balance in every direction. The camera is on a tripod. It has 3 legs. It has better balance. So what we do, if you come this way, Kamae, we look at a person. I want to succeed with minimum effort. So I don't want to push that way because she is strong. I want to push that way. She's weak. So there are positions called the third point. They're known as the third point. 1, 2, where would the other leg of the triangle be? And that's where you push a person. It's very easy. So when you understand the principle of balance, you know how to take a person off balance. And that's going to apply to all of your throws. It can also apply to punching techniques or striking techniques. So if you're in Kamae and you prevent a person, bang, here, they lose their balance. They can't regain their balance because you're preventing them from doing so. Balance is very important. We look at another application, the same exercise we did when you block, and I go here. Now, Lenny is quite slight, but she has strength. But if you're against a very big person, you might, some people I see put their hand here. So you stand up. Okay, even here, really try and get up. Okay. She has power from her body. 2 things, if I do this technique correctly, her elbow is here, 1 centimeter above the elbow, 1 finger. Stand up. Come on, stand up. Okay. Very easy because I'm doing the technique correctly. Now, if she was a weightlifter, okay, very, very strong, that should still work. But what if it doesn't? Again, we go back to the principle of balance. So you start to apply pressure to get up. I take the balance away. Suddenly the strength goes. Okay, again. Whee! We're here. Now, it's a strong person before they have time to react. Look where the balance is, from the hand to this knee, in a straight line. So I go here. You try and get up. Yeah, no problem. Balance is very important. We'll have a look at some throws shortly and see how it affects you there. Right now we're going to look at some wrist techniques. Now, in Aikido especially, there are lots and lots of wrist techniques. And you say, why? It doesn't suit self-defense nowadays. But in the old days, it did. You can imagine the samurai had a sword, he had a knife, he had a wakizashi, and other weapons. Now, if I am going to grab my sword, imagine I have it all I can get a sword. Okay? Okay, this one. Now, if I am attacking Lenny, the moment I put my hand here, she will grab my wrist, okay? Come. So that prevents me from drawing the sword, right? Once more. So I go to draw here. Straight away we have wrist contact. And that would be the same if I am here. She knows I have a weapon in here. The moment I go to grab it, stop. So then we have to start looking at wrist techniques. So that is why there are so many wrist techniques in Aikido and in the arts that come from the samurai. But they are still very important because in the street today, if Lenny is going shopping, she's here, somebody grabs her bag, her hand, tries to drag her in the bush or restrain her in some way. Often that is the place to grab. And there are reasons why you grab the wrist. One of these is the name itself in Japanese kote. Tei, hand. Ko is small. The small part of the hand, the neck, which means when you grab it, it's very difficult to get off. So if you grab my wrist tight, there, I can't. It's not easy to get out, okay, because the hand is bigger than the wrist. Now we're going to look at some principles that you can apply. Firstly, just look at your own wrist. Now, clench your fist. Grab your wrist tight. Then open your fingers. and tell me what you feel. Of course I can't hear you. Okay, here, open. You can feel your wrist expanding, okay? Not a lot, but enough to start spreading those fingers, just a little, to weaken the grip, just slightly. So, facing each other, you grab same side. Here. To release this grip, there are many ways to release it, but one way. First, open, and that you can see the finger moving. It opens a little bit. Then, again, you examine your wrist. That way, it is wide. That way, it is narrow. Wide, narrow. Here, we have a gateway. Alright? I can't go this way. There's a hand. I can go this way, out the gate. So, grab. I go here, palm down. Then, bend my elbow to elbow. Hold tight. And it's very easy to come out the gate. Here, here. Now note, my feet are also moving. I can do it like that, yes. But I can use my hips as well. Use your whole body when you do most techniques. Normally, the basic level, it's a strike. Control the hand, strike. There, elbow to elbow, strike somewhere. But doesn't have to be. I'm here. I can put an arm lock on, okay? If it's a man, bang, in the groin, face. All sorts of things. What you're doing, if I just go here, suddenly we're back to a neutral position. I can get a kick, a punch, something. Here, I'm in a position where it's a little bit more difficult, so you punch me. Can't. Okay, because I can control the movement. Then I can control here, I can control here. So, at a basic level, you might say, yes, that's a release, but so what? At a more advanced level, it sets you up for a whole raft of techniques, okay? Arm locks, wrist locks, whatever. So get the basics right first. Understand the principle of why that technique works. Then you can apply other techniques. We'll now have a look at two other simple wrist releases. So same side, hold. From here, same side. Often you'll give what I call a local anesthetic. Something to take his mind off, because that is not the attack. They didn't grab me here to hold my hand, okay? They grabbed me to hit, bang. That is what I need to be afraid of, or a kick or headbutt or something else. But as soon as it's grabbed, neutralize. So again, okay, grab, bang. As soon as the grab, there. So practice that. As soon as, there. Wait! Then you have a chance to do something else. Now, assuming we have done this, that relaxes, takes their mind from here or here back up to the pain. Here. Now, here. And the way I explain this is I have forgotten the technique, but the instructions are written on the palm of my hand. So have a look at the palm of my hand. Here. Then twist. There. Twist against the thumb. Out that gateway once more. Here, and I have a kotegaeshi position. Wait! Here, and then a wrist lock. We'll look at the effective wrist lock later. The main thing is the principle. Wait! Hit! Immediately. Not here, because by that time she's already hit me, okay? So again, here. Wait! Here. Then I can go here, wrist lock. I can do many techniques from here. I have the advantage again. And once I have a good wrist lock on, you've got to hit me again, Okay, you can prevent it by applying some pain. Another release could be an aggressive handshake from here. Again, many releases, but we're going to look at one that needs a little bit of technique. If somebody has a very strong hand, so you're holding tight here, and they're squeezing my hand, often to arrest me, take me somewhere else, or to hit me, not for my benefit, that's for sure. Now look at the principle here. Have one thumb, 4 fingers, and that grip is around my thumb. So here I strike in just to loosen a little bit. Then I rotate. I'm just showing you out here. Of course now I'm in a position I can strike, bang, any way I want. But here I timmy, bang, between my hand and here. So many students do it wrong. They think that is the technique. They try and do this and pull away out of the hands. If a person's got strong hands, probably can't. Here, but strike just to loosen, grab your own fingers to rotate your hand, then strike. Again, there, rotate. Then I'm in a good position to counterattack. Okay? So you practice that. Strike between your hand and theirs. Don't pull, don't force, just rotate. Now, I'm in a position to strike. Or here, and then some other technique, whatever it might be. Now, we're going to look at balance again. And the word Jujutsu. Jujutsu. Some people say it's a soft art, compliant art, or an art that doesn't go against the motions of the attacker. We'll just look at that principle for 1 second, using the technique that we just used. So if Lenny grabs same side wrist here, and I do here, alright? So now I think I've got an advantage, but she grabs, okay, and starts pulling me this way. Now I've lost my balance. Here, here. Alright, now come this way just a little. This time I come in, I've released. Good. Now I think I'm going to strike, but she pulls me off balance. Then make use of that movement. That's an enemy technique. So again, here, I'm going to strike, but she pulls me. Now, I'm here. Oh. Make use of it. This is the Ju in Jujutsu. There, 1. She grabs, I step. I take her off balance, and of course, I finish her on the ground. Let's do it a little more slowly. 1, I'm going to strike, but she gets my hand. So I go further. And what I'm doing here is pushing her hip so that she loses balance. Now, look at my position. I'm in Kamae. That's the importance of Kamae. We now look at balance in a slightly different way. Some judo throws, okay, that have incorporated their way into Jujutsu. Simple one, ogoshi, hip throw, or ippon seonagi, either of those are fine. So I imagine the position we want to think about is I am at an ATM machine, getting out some money, and you're standing in a queue. And this is not because I'm being attacked, but it's just to get the idea of the position. Because I see so many people doing hip throw, and they get here, and then the person drops off the hip because the hip's not far enough through, because that's not the position for a hip throw. Hip throw is here, and very important, the knees are bent, and here. So I need to be below the centre of gravity, and when I throw, it becomes easy. But to get that position, I want to talk about being in a queue, because feet are there, both facing the same way. If I don't move my feet, I go here and I pull my hip through, and bend my knees, that's pretty much the correct position. My hip should be just outside Lenny's hip. So it's here, there. Then the throw is easy. The principle in judo techniques is a rule. If I'm doing a throw where my foot is outside, then my hip can be inside Lenny's. If I'm doing a throw where my foot is on the inside, then my hip must be on the outside. So keep that in mind. You think, where should I be? What's my position? My feet are inside Lenny's. My hip should be outside. My knees should be bent. Let's look at why my knees should be bent. Get this prop here. So we will use this as an example. If I want to get this stick on the other side, nothing happens. Okay? I have to apply effort to get it there. Same going this way, nothing happens. I have to apply effort because the pivot point is very high. If we lower the pivot point, I go here, what happens? It just naturally, it is unstable, so it falls to the other side without any effort. I do nothing. So you need to remember this because it is the same as a throw. Come here. Okay, so if I'm going to throw, the centre of gravity is about here. If I want to do a throw here, I have to lift a lot of strength over to the other side. Here, and then it's not a very good throw. Okay? If I bend my knees and get right below here, then Lenny becomes unstable. So the same principle can be applied in a throw. Now if I lean against Lenny, then here I am stable. All my weight is on Lenny, but it's stable because I can't go over that high. If, however, she changes her position, then I become unstable. Once more, so here, she is making me stable. I can't go over that high fulcrum. But if she changes position, then the throw is very simple for her. So the principle to take away from that in many throwing techniques, certainly the hip throws and the shoulder throws, is to get below the centre of gravity. Then your opponent becomes unstable and away they go. Another principle worth considering is to use your opponent for balance. We talked about balance, the importance of balance. But I don't want to do all the work, so you can use your opponent. Now, for example, high kicks. I don't profess to be an expert in high kicks, but you can use your opponent a little bit. So, let's say I get a punch here. Right, now, I could stay here and kick behind the shoulder blades, but then she is free to do many things. So, if I get a punch, why not make the kick easier and restrict her movement by holding here? Then my balance is here, boom. I use her for balance while I'm kicking up here. So again, here I use my opponent for my balance. It makes life easier for me makes life more difficult for her. Another way it makes it difficult, we talked about balance, is you've got to punch. Okay, she can punch, bang. Good, okay, back, punch again. When you restrict the balance, the ability for your opponent to do a counter technique or a follow-up is somewhat limited. So we're going to punch where annoying or disturbing the balance, kick in and using that balance position to our advantage. This is not a technique. It's examining the principle of balance and putting it to your advantage. In line with the principle of balance is the principle of coordination, of using your entire body when you do a technique. Now, that can be examined, for example, the punch is not, okay, you can do a punch like that, okay, but there's no commitment from the body, okay. So the punch, and I'm teaching what you may already know, starts down here on the ground, and the force comes through the leg, okay, from a bent leg and foot, okay, the rotation of the hips, the rotation of the shoulder, and finally the arm. So the whole body, bang, ends up with power here. That helps my reach. All the movements are coordinated. It uses every muscle from that foot to impact. So here to here. So we're going to look at that in light of maybe an arm lock. The arm lock we'd look at, in Japanese, it has two names, Kanuki Gatami or Hiji Kakue Gatami. Okay, so for simple, put the hand on the shoulder here. So often I see people doing the arm lock like this and then not being able to do it because the hand is maybe in the wrong place and the arm lock ends up like this. It's not an arm lock. For a start, you need to take the mind away from whatever's happening. Bang. Here, then a little friction. You can see her moving already. The hollow of the elbow is uppermost. My arm passes 1 centimetre above the elbow. This hand on the shoulder and contact if we turn around here. Then I can use just my arms and it works. But what about everything else? Okay, if I use my hips here, I can use lift. Then I start to use her body weight against her own arm. I extend, everything comes together, and that becomes a very effective arm lock. But I see so many new students trying to work it out and they're busy wrestling with themselves, trying to get the simple arm lock to work, and it doesn't work. Okay? There are so many factors that contribute to making a good arm lock, and it's the coordination of everything from the bottom to the top, the position there, and thrusting up here to make an arm lock work. And that applies just like we said here. Then if I can put a lot of force in here, it's really not going to do anything. If I put the force in the right area, it will have much more effect. Now you notice my left foot is forward. That's okay, alright? But don't get your knee under, because I'm going to put a lot of pressure there, nothing's going to happen. It's supported by my knee. Make sure there's a clear gap or here, so that there's clear space underneath. The old Jujutsu books that came out at the turn of last century, the early 1900s through to about 1950, they would describe techniques as tricks. If you read the old books, it'll be trick number 52, trick number something something. Now, if you regard Jujutsu as a series of tricks, you might have to do 2,000, 3,000 tricks, and you have to remember each and every one of them. That's a lot to remember. We're talking about principles. So I'm going to show a few arm locks here. You don't have to remember them at all. just making a point that will become clear shortly. So if I take this arm, here and here, okay, and put pressure. This is called haragatami, because the pressure comes from my hara. Okay, if then I can do it here, or more often here. Okay, that's ashigatami. Okay, then more force here. I can do here. Now, try not to break her arm. Here, another arm lock. Okay, stand. And here. Here, kanuki gatami. Okay, then I can do it this way. Okay, I can do it on the outside. I can do it here. If I get a strangle here, I can put the arm lock here. Okay, stay down, roll over. Here, okay, I can apply it here. Okay, stand. Okay, so you punch there, here. I can apply here. I can keep on applying that arm lock anywhere. People say, oh, there's 10 arm locks. In fact, there's probably 40 arm locks. And you think, I have to remember all of them? No. You have to remember the principle. So here, yeah, they were all the same arm lock. Here it is again. Boom. Okay. Here, if I push back, just here. Okay, it's the same arm lock. Okay, then wakigatami, that side. Okay, or that side. They are all the same arm lock. You only have to remember one thing. Very simple. My arm only bends one way. Anytime I try to make the arm bend the other way with sufficient force, it is going to hurt. So remember the principle, then you can remember as many techniques as you want. Anytime you get in a position where you want, you can apply the same arm lock. Okay? It is nothing new. It makes Jujutsu so much simpler than having to remember hundreds and hundreds of techniques. Remember one principle. My head affects the position of my body and my balance. So when you're throwing, look either at your elbow for some throws or the position on the ground you want the person to land in, but don't look at the person. It's very hard for me to move this way when I'm looking that way. So I look that way, and then it's much easier. So think about where your eyes are looking. Now in practicing the throws, the Japanese have two terms. For osotogari, for example, half front hit, there, and then here, and then back, and then repeat, and then repeat, and then repeat, and then repeat, and then repeat. So it's 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, etc. That's called uchikome or butsukari. It can also be for shoulder throw. 2, 2, 1. So that's good for your footwork. But you're at home. Maybe you don't have a many. So what can you use? I will show you. So you don't have a training partner. Well, you can make a training partner. So out on your deck, maybe you have some posts on your veranda, or inside, maybe you can tie this to some solid fixture in your house, but you can practice. You can imagine that's the sleeve. 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. And if it's a hip throw, here and here. So you can makeshift and look for items around the home where you can adapt them for your own training purposes. Another good skill that I found when I was going for my earlier gradings, I had a lot to remember. I could only train 4 or 5 hours in a day, so you want to keep it in your mind. When you go to bed, you think about the techniques and you go through. If you've got a syllabus, I don't know how your club works, if you've got a syllabus, you can run through all those techniques in your mind. Now what happens, it activates all the brain cells, all the neural pathways, down to your arms, down to your legs, whatever is involved in that technique. So you go through it in your mind in a nice quiet place where you won't be disturbed, and do all your techniques in your mind. All those neural pathways are triggered. You'll even see your hands move sometimes. You'll be thinking of technique. It's a bit like shadow boxing. And all those little pathways are developing. It's like a track through the mountains. If enough people walk on it, it forms into a track, into a pathway. The same in your body. If you think about a technique enough, it's not as good as training it, but perhaps it's the next best thing. So the more you think about martial arts, the better you will be prepared when this COVID-19 lockdown is all over and we are free to train again. And when we are free to train again, go back to your dojo. Get on the mat. All your comrades, your colleagues, practice martial arts. It's good to be together. Okay, it's a family. Martial arts are a family. So it's going to be good to get back with our family when this is all over. I want to thank you for watching the video. Arigatou gozaimasu.